I've always been fascinated by birds, airplanes, and anything that has the ability to get off the ground and fly. When I was younger, if you left any paper lying around, you'd probably find it turned into a paper airplane sooner or later. And when I got a bit older, I discovered toy helicopters and all the carnage that entails. I'm a freelance videographer by trade, so naturally when I discovered DJI drones, I fell in love. My first drone was a Phantom II, and for a while after I got it, I'd go out every day and film anything I could find. When you combine flying things with cameras, something clicked for me and I've never looked back. Now fast forward 5 years and I own a Mavic 2 Pro, I fly it all the time for work and I enjoy it, but it's lost that spark that I used to have from flying my Phantom II. So earlier this year I was looking for a new creative outlet and I just decided to bite the bullet and buy an FPV drone. So in this video I'll share with you from my perspective as a videographer some things that I've learned and a few things that I wish I knew before I started. The first thing I learned is that there's shots you just cannot get with an FPV drone. The first time I brought my Nazgul on a shoot, the director asked me, can you get a top-down shot looking down on the water? But on an FPV drone, it's almost impossible. As soon as you point the camera down, the drone's pointing vertical and you're gonna dive. So it's just something to be aware of. It's a very flexible tool, but it does have its limitations. The second thing I learned is that you will have to solder. There's no way around it. I bought a bind and fly drone, which basically means it comes pre-soldered, pre-assembled, because I didn't want to solder and mess around with it for days trying to get it to work, probably getting frustrated. But even then, I had to solder on the crossfire receiver straight away. I decided I wanted GPS, so I had to solder that on. And then within the first few weeks, I'd crashed, broken a motor, and I had to replace that, which is more soldering. The third thing is that piloting is very challenging, but ultimately extremely rewarding. I really learned this before I even bought my drone because I downloaded Liftoff on Steam and played it with my Xbox controller. When you first start, you will be crashing a lot, so I definitely recommend practicing in a simulator rather than crashing your real thing, which is going to cost money and time. Once you start getting a feel for how the drone reacts to your inputs and how you can control the direction of your thrust to really guide it into corners and make those cinematic moves, it's a rewarding experience unlike any other hobby I've ever been a part of. Fourthly, embrace the crashes. When I first started flying, I was so nervous and scared of crashing that I would fly really cautiously and avoid any obstacles. As I flew a bit more, I realized that the best way to get exciting shots is to fly really close to things. Also, the closer you are to things, the more likely you are to hit them. You are going to crash, and you can hopefully recover it, you can hopefully fix your drone, but it's just a part of FPV. So embrace the crashes. The last thing I want to talk about is not really something I learned from FPV, but something I brought over from videography, and that is the importance of using NDs and flying smoothly. A huge part of what makes a shot look fast and not sped up is motion blur. So if you look on the edges of any of these shots, you'll see crazy amounts of blur as the ground races towards the camera. Now to do this in camera, you need to have your shutter speed set to usually double or 180 degrees of your frame rate. So in my case, I shoot most things at 25 frames, so I have my shutter set to 1/50. Well, the GoPro has a fixed aperture and you'll probably want your ISO set to 100 anyway, or 200 at the most, which means the only way to control your exposure is with ND filters. So I use the Polarpro NDs and they've been great. You just twist the lens, pull it off, and then you can put on any strength of ND you want. So I'm constantly swapping them out throughout my shoots depending on what the sun is doing. I'm not really used to being on this side of the camera, but I wanted to make a video that would hopefully help people in a similar position to me and also connect with people who are just getting into this hobby as well. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions or things you want to know about my setup. I'm really just getting started with this, but I think as a videographer, having FPV drone in your toolkit is an incredibly valuable offering that not many people can do so far. So if you're looking to get into it, I would definitely encourage you to give it a go. If you want to see some more of my work, check out my last video. Otherwise, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the next one. Can't believe I just did that.